Commander Peter Wright stood at the bridge of the Earth Defense Fleet flagship Guardian, his eyes fixed on the massive alien ships that had just appeared near Earth's orbit. The date was July 15, 2157, and humanity was about to meet its galactic neighbors for the first time. The alien vessels were unlike anything humans had ever built. One looked like a giant crystal, catching and reflecting sunlight in rainbow patterns. Another appeared to be made of some sort of living metal that moved and shifted like liquid. The third was covered in what looked like battle scars and weapon ports, its dark hull radiating power and menace. "Sir, they're hailing us," said Lieutenant Amy Martinez from her communication station. Her hands moved steadily across the control panel despite the tension in the air. Wright straightened his uniform. "On screen," he ordered, his voice calm and steady even though his heart was racing. The screen lit up with three very different alien beings. On the left was a crystalline creature that seemed to glow from within. In the middle floated a peaceful-looking blue humanoid with large silver eyes. On the right stood a massive armored being with gray skin and sharp tusks. "We represent the Galactic Council." The blue being spoke in perfect English, clearly using some kind of translation technology. "I am High Speaker Aaron of the Myrians. With me are Crystal Lord Zix of the Zinthar and War Chief Kraz of the Krodax." The meeting that followed would change Earth's future forever. The Council explained that they had been watching Earth's development for years. Now that humans had achieved faster-than-light travel, they were eligible to join the galactic community. But it quickly became clear that the Council saw humans as primitive newcomers. When Wright showed them Earth's technological achievements, War Chief Kraz laughed, a sound like rocks grinding together. "Impressive. For children," the Krodax leader rumbled. "Your ships are barely more than metal boxes with engines." Admiral Susan Clark, who had been quietly watching from her command chair, noticed how the Krodax leader's eyes lingered too long on the displays showing Earth's colony locations. Something about his gaze made her uneasy. In the weeks that followed, Earth tried to learn as much as possible about their new galactic neighbors. Lieutenant Martinez was put in charge of analyzing all communications and data shared by the Council. Working late one night in her office aboard the Guardian, she noticed something strange. "Computer, play back all Krodax transmissions from the past week," she ordered, reaching for her coffee. As she listened, a pattern emerged. The Krodax ships were sending coded messages when they thought no one was monitoring them. It took Martinez 3 days of non-stop work, but she finally broke the code. What she found made her blood run cold. "Admiral Clark, Commander Wright," she said, rushing into the emergency meeting she had called. "The Krodax are planning to invade our colonies. They think we're too weak to stop them." She played the decoded messages. The Krodax were calling Earth's colonies easy targets and simple conquests. They had already drawn up battle plans and were just waiting for the right moment to strike. Wright's face hardened as he listened. "We need to warn the Council." But when they brought their evidence to the Council meeting, the response was not what they hoped for. The crystalline Zinthar dismissed their concerns with a wave of their glittering appendage. "The Krodax are proud warriors, yes, but they are part of the Council. They would not dare break our peace," Crystal Lord Zix chimed, their voice like tinkling bells. High Speaker Aaron of the Myrians gave them a patronizing smile. "Young species often see threats where none exist. It is natural to be paranoid when first joining the galactic community." Only Admiral Clark noticed how War Chief Kraz's mouth curved into what might have been a smile at these words. Back on the Guardian, Wright, Clark, and Martinez held their own private meeting. "They won't help us," Wright said, pacing the conference room. "We're on our own." Clark nodded slowly. "Then we'll help ourselves. If the Krodax want to test us, they'll learn that humanity isn't as weak as they think." "But our ships are outdated compared to theirs," Martinez pointed out. "We saw their technology. They're centuries ahead of us." "Then we'll have to be smarter," Clark replied. "Humanity has always been good at that. Lieutenant, I want you to keep monitoring their communications. Learn everything you can about their military capabilities. Wright stopped pacing. I'll speak with Earth's government. We need to begin preparations quietly. If the Krodax are watching, we don't want them to know we're getting ready. Over the next few months, Earth's colonies were quietly fortified. New defense systems were installed under the guise of routine upgrades. Military personnel were transferred in small groups to avoid attention. The Earth Defense Fleet began running standard drills that were actually combat preparations. Meanwhile, the Krodax grew bolder. Their ships would regularly violate Earth's territorial boundaries, claiming navigation errors. They would conduct weapons tests just outside colony spaces. Each time, they waited for humans to show fear or protest to the Council. But humanity had learned to play a longer game. Ambassador Carol Thompson would simply smile at each Krodax provocation and file routine diplomatic notices. On the surface, Earth appeared to be acting like the Council expected, a naive young species trying to follow galactic protocols. Below that surface, however, humanity was preparing for war. Engineers worked around the clock on new technologies. Scientists studied every scrap of data about Krodax weapons and defenses. Military strategists planned responses to every possible form of attack. The situation came to a head 6 months after first contact. Lieutenant Martinez picked up new Krodax transmissions that made their intentions clear. They were ready to launch their invasion. They think we're too primitive to detect their fleet movements, Martinez reported to Wright and Clark. They're planning to hit New Eden Colony first, probably within the next 2 weeks. Clark's expression was grim but determined. Then it's time to show them how primitive we really are. Commander Wright, implement Defense Plan Alpha. Lieutenant Martinez, make sure our new detection grid is fully operational, and get me a secure line to Earth Command. As the humans prepared for the coming storm, the Krodax continued to underestimate them. War Chief Kraz was already planning his victory speech to the Council, never suspecting that his easy conquest was about to become anything but easy. The stage was set for a conflict that would shock the Galactic Council and prove that humanity was far more capable than anyone had guessed. Earth's colonies might have looked like easy targets, but the Krodax were about to learn a hard lesson about human ingenuity and determination. In her quarters that night, Lieutenant Martinez looked out at the stars and thought about the coming battle. The Krodax had centuries of advanced technology on their side. But humans had something they didn't understand: the ability to innovate, to think differently, to find new solutions to old problems. They think we're primitive, she murmured to herself, watching a Krodax ship pass arrogantly by. They're about to find out how wrong they are. Chief Engineer John Baker couldn't sleep. For the past 3 days, he had been staring at the problem of Krodax energy weapons. Their ships could tear through Earth's best shields like paper. But as he watched the sunrise from his lab window at the Luna Defense Research Center, something clicked in his tired mind. What if we don't try to block their weapons? He muttered to himself, reaching for his tablet. What if we send them back? The idea had come from watching his daughter play with mirrors in the sunlight. If light could be redirected, why not other forms of energy? He called up his team and began sketching out his ideas on the lab's main screen. Down the hallway, Dr. Linda Peterson was having a breakthrough of her own. She had been studying the battle footage from recent Krodax training exercises when she noticed something interesting about their attack patterns. They're predictable, she said to her AI research team. They follow the same tactical doctrines they've used for centuries. They haven't needed to change because no one has beaten them. Peterson's team had been working on a new kind of artificial intelligence that could learn and adapt faster than any previous system. While the Krodax relied on brute force and overwhelming firepower, she believed a smarter approach was possible. If we can predict their moves, she explained to Admiral Clark during the morning briefing, we can counter them before they even make them. Clark leaned forward, interested. How long until it's ready? The basic system is working now, Peterson replied, pulling up a simulation on the screen. We've been feeding it all the Krodax battle data Lieutenant Martinez collected. It's already finding patterns we never noticed. While the scientists worked, Ambassador Carol Thompson was playing a different kind of game. Every day, she met with the Galactic Council, pretending that Earth was naive and eager to learn from their superior civilization. "We are so grateful for the Crodax's military advice," she would say, watching War Chief Kraz puff up with pride. "Our primitive vessels have much to learn from their example." But beneath her humble words, Thompson was buying time. Every day she kept the Council believing in Earth's submission was another day for Baker and Peterson to develop their new technologies. In his lab, Baker's team had created their first working prototype of what they called the quantum mirror. It looked like a simple panel of silvery metal, but its surface was covered in millions of tiny quantum receivers. "Hit it," Baker ordered, and his assistant activated an energy beam. The beam struck the panel and bounced right back to its source, destroying the test emitter. Baker grinned. "Now imagine this covering our ships." The quantum mirror technology was quickly approved for production. Earth's shipyards began secretly installing it on their vessels, hiding the upgrades under conventional armor plating. From the outside, Earth's ships still looked primitive, exactly as the Crodax expected. Meanwhile, Peterson's AI system, which they named TATT's Tactical Analysis and Combat Training Intelligence System, was exceeding all expectations. In simulations, it could process combat data and make decisions 100 times faster than any human or known alien system. The key is that it doesn't just follow programmed responses. Peterson explained to Commander Wright during a test run. It learns and adapts in real time. The more it fights, the smarter it gets. Wright watched as TATT's ran a simulation against recorded Crodax battle strategies. The AI predicted and countered every move, turning the Crodax's own tactics against them. "Will it work in real combat?" Wright asked. Peterson nodded confidently. "We've built in every safeguard we can think of. The system is distributed across multiple nodes, so even if we lose several ships, it will keep working. And it can operate independently if needed." The Earth Defense Fleet began running integrated tests of both new systems. Ships equipped with quantum mirrors and linked to tactics practiced complex maneuvers in the asteroid belt, hidden from prying eyes. But they couldn't hide everything. The Crodax noticed increased activity around Earth's colonies and decided it was time to act. War Chief Kraz called Ambassador Thompson to a private meeting. "Your species," he rumbled, looking down at her from his great height, "has been given enough time to accept its place in the galaxy. The Council has been patient, but now you must prove your civilization's worth." Thompson kept her face carefully neutral. "What do you mean, honored War Chief?" Kraz's smile showed his sharp teeth. "The Crodax Empire requires your outer colonies for proper development. You have 1 Earth week to begin evacuation procedures. This is not a request." Thompson bowed her head, appearing properly intimidated. "I will convey your generous terms to my government immediately." As soon as she was back in her office, Thompson sent an encrypted message to Admiral Clark. "They've played their hand. 1 week." Clark received the message during a final inspection of the upgraded fleet. Baker's quantum mirrors had been installed on every major vessel. Peterson's TATT's system was fully operational and linked across the entire fleet. Earth's ships might look unchanged on the outside, but they were now more capable than anything the Crodax could imagine. "Send word to all colonies," Clark ordered. "Begin evacuation procedures exactly as the Crodax demanded, but only of non-essential personnel. Military forces will remain in place under cover of civilian structures. Let's give them exactly what they expect to see." For the next week, Earth's colonies were busy with apparent evacuation efforts. Civilian ships came and went, making a great show of moving people and equipment. The Crodax watched with satisfaction, believing they were witnessing humanity's submission to their power. But those same civilian ships were bringing in the last components needed for the colony's defenses. Underground bunkers were fully stocked. Military personnel moved into hidden positions, Every colony became a carefully prepared trap, waiting to be sprung. In his lab, Baker put the finishing touches on the fleet's quantum mirror systems. "They're as ready as they'll ever be," he told Admiral Clark. "The mirrors should redirect about 90% of their energy weapon fire. They won't know what hit them." Down the hall, Peterson ran final checks on tactics. The AI had now processed every piece of Krodak's tactical data available and created countless counter-strategies. "Remember," she told the system, "in real combat, they might do something unexpected. You'll need to adapt." The AI's response was simple but confident. "Adaptation is what humans do best. I learn from the best teachers." As the deadline approached, Earth's leaders gathered for one final meeting. The room was tense but determined. "Everything is in place," Clark reported. "The Krodaks think they're about to roll over a bunch of helpless colonies. Instead, they're flying into the biggest ambush in human history." Wright looked around the room at the faces of those who had worked so hard to prepare for this moment. "The Krodaks think humanity is primitive because we're young. They're about to learn that being young just means we're not stuck in old ways of thinking." In orbit above Earth, Ambassador Thompson watched the Krodaks' fleet gathering near the moon. They were making no effort to hide their numbers or their weapons. Why should they? They believed they were about to conduct a simple operation against a primitive species. "Let them think we're weak," Thompson whispered to herself. "Let them think we're primitive. Pride comes before a fall." And they're about to fall hard. The stage was set. Humanity had prepared its greatest innovations, hidden beneath a carefully crafted mask of submission. Now all they had to do was wait for the Krodaks to make their move. The war was about to begin, and the galaxy was about to learn a valuable lesson about underestimating humanity. The Krodaks' attack began at dawn, Earth time. Their massive fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel near the colony of New Eden, their weapons already charged. 500 warships, their dark hulls bristling with energy cannons, moved into attack formation. Captain Kevin Morris stood on the bridge of the EDF Defiant, watching the enemy fleet approach. His ship was one of 30 defenders visible to the Krodak scanners. The rest of Earth's forces remained hidden behind New Eden's moons, waiting for the right moment. "They're hailing us," reported his communications officer. The Krodak's fleet commander appeared on screen, his gray face twisted in what passed for a smile among his species. "Primitive humans, you have failed to completely evacuate this colony as ordered. This is your final warning. Surrender now or be destroyed." Morris straightened in his chair. They had rehearsed this moment dozens of times. "Our evacuation ships were delayed. Please give us more time." The Krodak's commander laughed. "Time is over. Now you will learn the price of defying the Krodak's empire." The enemy ships opened fire. Brilliant beams of energy streaked across space toward the human vessels. The Krodak's commander watched confidently, expecting to see the primitive human ships torn apart. Instead, something impossible happened. The energy beams struck the human ships and bounced back. Lieutenant Mary Walsh, monitoring the tactics system aboard the Defiant, grinned as she watched the quantum mirrors do their work. "All ships reporting successful energy deflection," she announced. "Baker's mirrors are working perfectly." The Krodak's commander's face turned from gray to pale white as he watched his own weapons fire return to destroy 3 of his ships. "What trickery is this?" he roared. Morris allowed himself a small smile. "You wanted to see what humans are capable of. Allow us to demonstrate." He nodded to Walsh. "Execute Battle Plan Alpha. Let's show them what TACTICs can do." The AI system had been analyzing the Krodak's attack patterns from the first shot. Now it took control of the human fleet's coordinated defense. Each ship moved in perfect synchronization, creating a complex dance that the Krodaks had never seen before. "Impossible," the Krodak's commander spluttered. "Your ships cannot move like that. You are primitives." More Krodak's energy beams fired. More beams reflected back. The quantum mirrors weren't perfect. Some energy got through. but the human ship's conventional shields could handle the reduced power. Meanwhile, every reflected shot struck another Krodax vessel. Walsh's hands flew over her console as she worked with tactics. The AI is adapting to their pattern changes. They're trying to switch tactics, but it's predicting their moves before they make them. The Krodax fleet began to break formation. They had never faced an enemy who could turn their own weapons against them. They had never fought ships that seemed to know their moves in advance. Their centuries-old battle tactics were failing. Second wave, engage, Morris ordered. From behind New Eden's moons, 200 more Earth ships appeared. They had been hiding there, waiting for the Krodax to commit to their attack. Now they emerged, their quantum mirrors ready, their movements guided by tactics. The Krodax commander's eyes widened in shock. You hid ships from our scanners. That's not. You can't. Can't what? Morris asked calmly. Can't think of new ideas. Can't improve. Can't surprise you. I think you'll find humans are full of surprises. The battle that followed would be studied in military academies for centuries to come. The Krodax tried every tactic they knew. They attempted to overwhelm the quantum mirrors with concentrated fire. They tried to jam the communications they thought were coordinating the human ships. They even tried to retreat and regroup. Nothing worked. When they concentrated their fire, tactics predicted their target points and moved ships out of the way at the last second, causing the Krodax to destroy their own vessels with reflected energy. When they tried to jam communications, they found that each human ship could operate independently, guided by its own tactics node. When they tried to retreat, they discovered that the human ships were faster and more maneuverable than they had appeared. Status report. Morris called out as another wave of Krodax ships fell back in disarray. Enemy fleet is down to 60% strength, Walsh reported. Our losses are minimal. 3 ships damaged, no destructions. Tactics reports their attack patterns are becoming increasingly random. They're starting to panic. The Krodax commander had disappeared from communications. His flagship was now trying to hide behind his own support vessels. The mighty warrior race had never expected this kind of defeat, especially not from primitives. High above the battle, observers from the Galactic Council watched in stunned silence. The crystalline Zenthar representative's glow had dimmed in shock. The Mirian diplomat's silver eyes were wide with disbelief. How? The Mirian whispered. How are they doing this? The answer was simple, though it would take the Council years to fully understand it. Humans had done what they did best. They had innovated, adapted, and overcome. While the Krodax relied on brute force and their reputation as galaxy-spanning warriors, humans had quietly prepared new solutions to old problems. The battle lasted another 2 hours, but the outcome was never in doubt after the first exchange. By the time the last Krodax ship flowed into faster-than-light travel, their mighty attack fleet had been reduced to less than a quarter of its original size. The cost to their pride was even greater than the loss of their ships. The Krodax, who had prided themselves on being the greatest warriors in the galaxy, had been defeated by a species they considered primitive. Worse, they had been defeated by their own weapons, turned against them by human ingenuity. Captain Morris stood on his bridge, watching the last enemy ships disappear. "Send word to Earth Command," he ordered. "New Eden is secure. The Krodax fleet has been defeated." Lieutenant Walsh looked up from her console, where TACTICs was still running battle analysis. "Sir, the AI wants to show you something. It's predicting the Krodax will change their entire military doctrine after this. They'll have to. Their old tactics are now useless against us." Morris nodded. "That's the thing about calling someone primitive. You don't expect them to come up with something new. You don't think they can surprise you." He looked around at his crew, pride evident in his expression. "I'd say we surprised them pretty well today." As recovery ships moved to assist the few damaged human vessels, news of the victory was already spreading across Earth's colonies. The mighty Krodax had struck with everything they had, and humanity had not just survived. They had won decisively. But in his command chair, Morris knew this was just the beginning. The Krodax would be back, and next time they would be ready for the quantum mirrors and tactices. They would adapt and try new strategies. That was fine with him. Let them adapt. Humans would just keep innovating, keep thinking of new solutions. That was what humans did best. "Send my compliments to Engineer Baker and Dr. Peterson," he told Walsh. "Their innovations worked perfectly, but tell them to start working on improvements. Something tells me we're going to need them." The battle was over. The first test of humanity's new technology had been a complete success, but the war was just beginning, and humanity was ready to show the galaxy even more surprises. Admiral Susan Clark stood before the holographic display in Earth Command's war room, studying the positions of both human and Krodax forces. 3 days had passed since the victory at New Eden, and it was time to launch the next phase of humanity's plan. "Begin Operation Checkmate," she commanded. Around her, officers rushed to transmit her orders to the fleet. Major Daniel Phillips received those orders aboard his stealth ship, the Shadow. He and his strike team had been waiting for this moment. Their ship was humanity's newest innovation, a vessel that could hide from even the most advanced Krodax sensors. "All hands, prepare for mission launch," Phillips announced to his crew. "We're going hunting for their command ship." The Shadow's stealth technology was different from anything the galaxy had seen before. Instead of trying to block scanner signals, it absorbed them and sent back false readings. To Krodax sensors, the Shadow would look like nothing more than a piece of space debris. Meanwhile, Dr. Linda Peterson worked with tactices to coordinate the larger fleet movement. The AI system had learned much from the Battle of New Eden, and it had developed new strategies based on the Krodax's reactions. "They'll expect us to be defensive now," Peterson explained to Commander Wright during the final briefing. "They think we'll dig in and protect our colonies. Instead, we're going to hit them where they're weakest." The counteroffensive began with a series of small attacks on Krodax supply lines. Earth ships would appear suddenly, destroy a few cargo vessels, and vanish before reinforcements could arrive. Each attack was precisely calculated by tactics to cause maximum disruption with minimum risk. Aboard the Shadow, Major Phillips and his team moved steadily closer to their target, the Krodax command ship Warlord. The massive vessel was coordinating all Krodax military operations in the sector, and it held vital military data in its computers. "Approaching target," Phillips whispered, though he knew the Krodax couldn't hear him. "All teams, prepare for boarding action." The Shadow glided silently through space, looking like nothing more than a small asteroid to the Krodax scanners. They drew closer and closer to the Warlord, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. That moment came when tactices launched its next phase of attacks. Suddenly, human ships appeared at 3 different Krodax bases simultaneously. As alarms blared across the Krodax fleet, the Shadow made its move. "Now," Phillips ordered. The Shadow's hidden docking clamps locked onto the Warlord's hull. Within seconds, Phillips and his team were cutting through the outer plating. They wore advanced stealth suits that masked their life signs, making them invisible to internal sensors. "Remember," Phillips told his team as they entered the Krodax ship, "we need their command codes and battle plans. Everything else is secondary." The human strike team moved through the massive ship like ghosts. When they had to take down Krodax guards, they used silent weapons that left no trace. Everything about their mission was designed to maintain surprise for as long as possible. Back in the main battle, Tactices was coordinating the fleet attacks with incredible precision. Every time the Krodax tried to respond to one threat, 2 more would appear somewhere else. The AI system was running them in circles, keeping them distracted while Phillips and his team did their work. "Sir," Lieutenant Walsh called out to Captain Morris on the bridge of the Defiant. "Tactices is picking up unusual energy readings from the Krodax ships. They're trying something new." The Krodax had learned from their defeat at New Eden. They had modified their weapons to pulse at random frequencies, hoping to confuse the quantum mirrors. Some of their shots were getting through now, causing damage to human ships. But Engineer Baker had anticipated this. The quantum mirrors began to adapt, their surfaces shifting to match the new energy patterns. It wasn't perfect, but it was good enough to keep the human ships fighting. Aboard the Warlord, Phillips and his team reached the main computer core. While half his team stood guard, the others began downloading everything they could find. Military codes, battle plans, fleet movements. Everything the Krodax had tried to keep secret was now flowing into human hands. "Sir," one of his technicians reported, "I'm finding something interesting. Their whole command network is centralized. If we can get the master codes, we can shut down their entire fleet." Phillips finished. "Do it." Just then, alarms began to blare throughout the Warlord. Someone had finally noticed that something was wrong. "Time to leave," Phillips ordered. "Did we get what we came for?" The technician nodded, holding up a small data device. "Everything, sir, including those master codes." The team fought their way back to their entry point, using the confusion caused by Tactics' attacks to cover their escape. By the time the Krodax realized what had really happened, the shadow was already gone, vanishing back into the darkness of space. Dr. Peterson was waiting when the stolen data arrived at Earth Command. She immediately fed it into Tactics, letting the AI analyze everything the strike team had recovered. "This is incredible," she told Admiral Clark as the analysis came in. "We can track every ship in their fleet. We know every code they use, and with these command protocols." Clark nodded grimly. "We can shut them down mid-battle. Are you sure Tactics can handle this much data?" "The AI is already integrating it all," Peterson replied. "It's creating new battle strategies based on what we've learned. The Krodax won't know what hit them." The next phase of the battle proved her right. When the Krodax launched their counterattack, trying to avenge their earlier defeats, they found themselves facing an enemy that seemed to know their every move in advance. Tactics used the stolen command codes to send confusing orders to Krodax ships. Weapons wouldn't fire when ordered. Engines would suddenly cut out. Communications would fail at critical moments. "This is impossible." The Krodax fleet commander raged as another formation fell into chaos. How are they doing this? The answer, of course, was human ingenuity. While the Krodax had relied on brute force and their reputation as warriors, humans had found smarter ways to fight. They had combined stealth technology, AI tactical systems, and good old-fashioned espionage to turn the tables completely. Commander Wright watched from the bridge of the Guardian as another Krodax battle group surrendered. "Send word to all ships," he ordered. "Phase 4 is complete. Begin final operations." The war wasn't over yet, but everyone could see which way it was going. A mighty Krodax empire, which had thought to crush humanity as primitives, was instead being systematically taken apart by human innovation and strategy. In her lab, Dr. Peterson watched Tactics continue to learn and adapt. The AI was already suggesting new strategies, new ways to use the stolen Krodax data. "They thought we were primitive because we were young," she said to herself. "They never understood that being young just means we're not stuck in old ways of thinking." The counteroffensive had succeeded beyond anyone's expectations. Now it was time for the final phase, the one that would force the Galactic Council to recognize humanity's true place in the galaxy. The great chamber of the Galactic Council fell silent as Ambassador Carol Thompson walked to the speaker's podium. Around her, representatives from 100 alien species watched with new respect. Gone was the dismissive attitude they had shown just months ago. Now they looked at the human ambassador with mixture of fear and admiration. "Honored members of the council," Thompson began, her voice calm and steady. "I stand before you today to discuss recent events and humanity's future role in galactic affairs." In the front row, the crystalline form of Crystal Lord Zix sparkled nervously. Beside them, High Speaker Aaron of the Myrians shifted uncomfortably in their hover chair. The seat reserved for the Krodax representative stood empty. 3 months ago, Thompson continued, The Crodax Empire launched an unprovoked attack on human colonies. They believed us to be primitive and weak. They were wrong. On the massive screens behind her, images began to play. Captain Morris's victory at New Eden. Major Phillips's daring raid on the warlord. The systematic dismantling of the Crodax fleet by tactics and human ingenuity. Each scene caused murmurs to ripple through the assembled aliens. But today, I am not here to discuss our victory, Thompson said. I am here to discuss our future. Humanity has proven itself on the battlefield. Now we wish to prove ourselves in peace. Lieutenant Amy Martinez, standing at the back of the chamber, smiled as she watched Thompson speak. She remembered how the council had dismissed her warnings about the Crodax months ago. Now they hung on every human word. The Zinthar and Marian delegations have already approached us to break their alliance with the Crodax, Thompson announced. We accept their friendship and look forward to peaceful cooperation. Crystal Lord Zix's form brightened slightly at these words. The crystalline species had been quick to recognize their mistake in supporting the Crodax. They had already begun sharing advanced technology with Earth as a sign of good faith. Furthermore, Thompson continued, we have evidence of multiple violations of council law by the Crodax Empire. Captain Morris, if you would present your findings. Morris stepped forward, carrying the data collected during the war. Our ships recorded everything, he explained to the council. The Crodax didn't just attack us. They planned to conquer and enslave our people. They violated 17 different council peace treaties. The evidence was damning. Video recordings showed Crodax commanders ordering attacks on civilian targets. Captured documents revealed plans to turn Earth's colonies into slave labor camps. The council chamber erupted in angry shouts and accusations. Silence. High Speaker Aaron called out, their telepathic voice cutting through the noise. They turned to Thompson. What does humanity want in return for this evidence? Thompson's expression remained diplomatic, but there was steel in her voice. A permanent seat on the Galactic Council, equal standing with all other species, and guarantees that no race will ever again be dismissed as primitive simply because they are young. Dr. Linda Peterson, watching the proceedings from Earth via subspace link, nodded in approval. Tactics had helped compile the evidence, sorting through thousands of hours of battle recordings to find the most damning proof of Crodax crimes. The Crodax believed that age and tradition made them superior, Peterson told her team as they watched. They never understood that innovation and adaptation are what truly drive progress. Back in the council chamber, the vote was quick and unanimous. Humanity would join the council as a full member, with all rights and privileges. More than that, Earth would be given responsibility for helping to reform the council's military and defensive systems. Engineer Baker's quantum mirror technology has already been requested by 12 different species, Thompson reported later to Earth's leadership. Dr. Peterson's take-thesis system is being adapted to coordinate emergency response and disaster relief across the galaxy. Commander Wright, who had led the first contact with the Council so many months ago, couldn't help but smile at the irony. They called us primitive because we were new, he said. Now they're learning from us because we're new, because we think differently. The changes in the galaxy happened quickly after that. The Crodax Empire, humbled by their defeat, was forced to give up many of their conquered territories. Their representatives were suspended from the Council pending major reforms in their government. The Zinthar and Mirians proved to be valuable allies once they stopped underestimating humanity. Their advanced technology, combined with human innovation, led to breakthroughs in many fields. New ships were built combining the best of all three species' knowledge. Lieutenant Walsh, who had worked so closely with tactics during the war, was put in charge of a new galactic defense initiative. The program would combine human AI systems with alien technology to protect all Council species from future threats. The key is to keep learning, keep adapting, she explained to a group of alien military officers. Never assume you know everything. Never stop looking for new solutions. Major Phillips and his stealth team became legends throughout the galaxy. Their mission to capture the warlords' command codes was studied in military academies on 100 worlds. The Crodax, especially, learned a hard lesson about the danger of ignoring primitive technology. In her lab on Earth, Dr. Peterson continued to improve TACs. The AI system was now coordinating peaceful activities across the galaxy, from trade routes to scientific research. It had learned as much about building as it had about fighting. Humanity's greatest strength, she told a class of eager alien students, isn't our technology or our strategies. It's our ability to imagine new possibilities, to see problems differently, to never stop asking, what if? Engineer Baker's quantum mirrors were adapted for dozens of peaceful uses. They helped power cities, protect ships from solar radiation, and even create new forms of art. He spent his time teaching others how to improve on his designs, encouraging innovation among all species. The mirrors work because they adapt, he explained, just like humanity, just like any species that wants to survive and thrive. 1 year after the war, Ambassador Thompson stood again before the council. This time, she wasn't asking for recognition. She was leading the discussion on new initiatives for galactic peace and cooperation. We were not the primitives the Crodax thought we were, she told the assembled representatives. But we were something just as powerful. We were innovators, and now we invite all species to innovate with us, to build a better galaxy together. The chamber, once filled with species that looked down on humanity, erupted in applause. The sane races that had dismissed Earth as primitive now looked to humans for leadership and fresh ideas. Captain Morris, watching from his new ship built with combined human and alien technology, summed it up best. They thought being young made us weak. Instead, it made us strong. Because when you're young, you're not trapped by tradition. You're free to try new things, to think differently, to surprise everyone, including yourself. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. Age and power didn't guarantee victory. Technology alone didn't ensure success. It was the ability to adapt, to innovate, and to think differently that truly mattered. Humanity had not just survived their trial by fire. They had emerged as leaders in a new age of galactic cooperation. Their primitive ideas had changed the galaxy forever, and this was just the beginning. As Earth's sun set on another busy day of interstellar commerce and cooperation, Lieutenant Martinez looked up at the stars and smiled. Somewhere up there, the Galactic Council was in session, with humanity's voice now among the strongest. Not bad for a bunch of primitives.